All rise. Vipulve. Please be seated.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ken, sorry. Mr. Ken, before I get to you, there's something Ms. Bossett wants to do on the record. There's a correction she needs to make.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. We seek to correct the record, and in that regard, would like to confirm whether document KenyaMOJA.com 00030448 is given the EVD number TOTP 00131 and not 137. That is a correction in regard to what I previously announced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bossett.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, before my learned friend commences, can I also just make one clarification regarding the original or the CPEV report that the state seeks to tender? I've had someone look into the records, and I can confirm that we have received...
You mean prosecution?
Oh, I said it again. Yes, the prosecution. I beg your pardon. I believe I said that this morning as well. I no longer represent my state, but the prosecution. What I can confirm is that having looked into the records, the version which the prosecution has put up is a version which was received from the panel of eminent African experts who provided the CPEV material to the prosecution and who were the custodians of that material. So my submission is that is a complete and accurate copy of the record. We've been unable to find a bound version in our records, but we do note that the CPEV material that was handed over to us in bound copies, and perhaps that is what my learned friend saw a picture of.
All right, we'll move on now. Mr. Ken and Mr. Keegan Katwa, before the witness came into the court, you had requested that initially, that was yesterday, that you be allowed to start cross-examination on Monday. And we were about to make a ruling this morning on the matter, but you intervened and said you may be able to start today after all. Now, in the meantime, as you know, things shift. The appeals chamber will be using this courtroom to deliver a judgment by 4:30, and the logistics of delayed broadcast for our case, which takes 30-minute delay, requires that there must be a 30-minute delay before the appeals chamber starts. That means we must be done by 4 today. Now, are both of you able to conclude your cross-examination, both of you, by 3:50? I say 3:50, allowing the possibility of 10 minutes of re-examination by the prosecution, so that this witness will be discharged today, so he can go home for the weekend. Are you able to do that? Because if that is not the case, it means he will have to come back on Monday anyway if you don't conclude by 3:50.
Your Honour, I've had discussions with my learned friend, lead counsel for Mr. Sang, and if the court would be willing to accommodate the defence by shortening the lunch break, it would be we would very much hope that we could finish by 3:50 or 4 p.m., both of us today. That's the hope.
Well, we don't want to leave it on a matter of hope.
Your Honour, if we get half an hour for lunch, I think that should be possible. I've curtailed my cross-examination based upon what's actually said, and I'm not going into issues that were raised in the proving note, so that should save a considerable amount of time.
The concern is so the witness doesn't have to come back on Monday, but if the witness is going to come back on Monday because you're not able to finish, then we might as well consider adjourning at 1 o'clock and leaving it at that and coming back on Monday. That is the thinking. But if you're going to make that commitment, completing by 3:50, then we can shorten. I'm sure we can shorten the lunch break and have you conclude by 3:50.
Your Honour,
Both of you, that is.
could we do this, perhaps? You would allow me to make further submissions by 1 o'clock, by the time we adjourn for lunch, and then hopefully I'll be in a position to make a little bit more accurate submissions. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine.
That's great.
Mr. McFadden, Ms. Steinbach, as you would have noticed, had completed his examination in chief, and now defense counsel will start the cross-examination. Starting with, who's starting first? Mr. Kanyu?
Your Honour, my learned friend is kind enough to allow me to go first.
Yes, counsel for Mr. Ruto will start his cross-examination. Please keep in mind the advice we given to you earlier. Of course, you are familiar with how inquiries work, but the only thing is, again, keep in mind the need for the pause between the conclusion of the questioning and your beginning to answer the question. And part of the difficulty we have to contend with in our work is when you have the questioner and the witness speaking the same language, the temptation to compress the pause is greater. So keep that in mind. Both of you speak English, and that means the temptation for you to immediately start answering the question. And he too will keep in mind the need to observe the pause. Now, Mr. Khan, please.
Mr. McFadden, good morning. As you heard, we'll try very much to get through your evidence without unnecessarily delaying you here in The Hague. We are all very grateful that you've taken the time and the trouble to travel such a long distance to give your evidence to the bench. So thank you very much for that. Now, we've heard that for many years you were a police officer in New Zealand. That's right, is it not?
Yes, that's right.
And you've given evidence many times before different courts. Is that right?
Well, I have, but not for some time.
And of course you've been cross-examined back home in New Zealand in criminal proceedings.
Yes, that's right.
Before you were appointed to the Waki Commission in 2008, had you ever been in Kenya?
No.
So that's the first time you went to Kenya was when you went to commence your duties as a commissioner. That's right, is it not?
Yes, that's right.
And you gave evidence that in Papua New Guinea you reviewed 3 by-elections. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, with others.
And in that you looked at the processes of the by-elections, audit, costs and security. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
That had nothing to do with any post-election violence, did it? In the general election in Papua New Guinea?
No, it didn't, although part of what we looked at was the form of those by-elections, which in some way was designed to reduce the propensity for violence. And I believe we made recommendations about that through into the general elections in that country.
And that review, how long did it last?
Not long. Maybe 4 to 6 weeks altogether, including writing.
And again, before you commenced your duties as a commissioner for the WACI Commission, had you ever worked in Africa?
No, I'd never worked in Africa.
Now, one of the challenges from the start, as everybody knew, was that there was going to be an awful lot of work to do in a very short period of time. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think the report itself details that the Commission commenced work on the 23rd of May 2008. Is that right?
That's the date that the Commission was established by Gazette reference, I believe.
Yes. And you arrived when in Kenya?
Shortly after that.
Shortly after?
Yes.
And then I think the commissioners, you spent about a month or so sorting out office space and basic logistical necessities. Is that right?
That's right, about a month.
And then you had to recruit staff for the commission?
That was during the same period.
And you started substantive work on the 25th of June 2008. Is that right, according to the report? And Your Honour, it's tab 12, KenyaMOJA.com 0001 0377, just for reference. So the work, substantive work, started, according to the report, on the 25th of June 2008. Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Khan,
That's
you
what-
will notice that is a very large report.
Your Honour, it's tab 12 of the prosecution.
Yes, I know.
Page 3.
My point is, if you wouldn't have difficulty with a witness looking at the report.
Your Honour, not at all.
Yes.
He can look at it
Refresh his
as you
memory,
wish,
if need be.
but I'm referring directly from the, I think, non-contentious matters that are contained on the face of the report. So, if I could...
And it is for that reason that I say that
Yes,
since it is
by all
not
means.
contentious.
Yes, but it's not contentious. But by all means, sir, if you wish to look at tab 12 of the prosecution file, and it's at page 3. The ERN is 0377. Can you please take your time to find that? So it's on page 3, and you'll see at the top of the page, the Commission finally acquired office space on the 17th of June 2008. By 25th of June 2008, most of the staff were on board,
Yes.
and the Commission was able to begin substantive work. So you agree I'm
Yes.
presenting things accurately?
Yes.
Great. And in fact, the first hearings that were held by the Commission took place on the 9th of July. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
And you've given evidence about extensions that were granted. I'm not going to repeat that. But ultimately, after you're given a 1-month extension and then a further 2-week extension, the Commission concluded its work and submitted its report on the 22nd of September 2008. Is that right? That's when it finished its work?
No, it was August that the report was submitted. Sorry, October, I believe. Just looking for it here.
Mr. Ken, are you looking at a reference in the report for that question?
Well, Your Honour, I'll come back to that. I was looking at the 1 month extension and plus the 2 weeks extension and looking at the various Gazette notices, but I can move on. The report itself was transmitted to the President of the Republic of Kenya on the 16th of October 2008. Is that right?
That's correct.
But the work and the report itself had been finished before that, hadn't it?
Yes, we finished the report before we handed it in.
And it was bound and then presented in a properly bound and formalised manner along with the letter of transmission to the President. Is that right?
That's correct.
But it's correct to say, is it not, that by the 2nd of September 2008, investigations were over?
Well, I can't exactly remember when we would have determined that investigations were over. Some work continued through until early October. In fact, we heard from 2 or 3 people in October, and one of our investigators did some investigations in Nairobi, I believe did you say the 3rd of September?
I said the 2nd of September
the 2nd.
was the last formal hearing. Am I wrong on
formal
that?
hearing.
Well, that's a different.
Well, that's a different. Yes. Sorry.
I'm clarifying it, Your Honour. It is a different question. I'm clarifying in light of the witness's answer. 2nd of September, is that the last formal hearing?
Well, if we have a record here that it is the last formal hearing, then that would be so.
And Your Honour, just for the prosecution, I'm referring to prosecution statement KenOTP 0091-01203. And perhaps before we go on, I've prepared bundles. Perhaps it's an opportune time to pass those on to the prosecution and to the Honourable Chamber. And Your Honour, you'll see. Have you got that, Your Honour? It's a bundle, yes, and you'll see at tab.
Does a witness have a bundle also?
I believe it's yes. Your Honour, it's tab 11, and it's a prosecution's investigative report with Bob Grinstead, just for the record, and the first paragraph. Bob Grinstead said the final investigative work was completed around 2nd of September 2008, and the SIPAV itself came to an end at about 15th of September. Your Honour, that's just the basis of my questioning, so there's no misunderstanding. Witness, you say in your statement to the prosecution, the writing of the report took about 6 weeks. Is that right?
Well, a little less than that actually. Yes.
And the report itself was written in Diani on the coast. Is that right?
Yes.
That was a retreat, essentially, so the commissioners could focus exclusively on writing the report. Is that right?
That's right.
And then I think when you came back to Nairobi, some additional work was done as well.
That's right.
Is that correct? So the actual hearing of witnesses, the actual investigations during the Waki Commission was about 7 weeks. Is that right?
Well, it would be in the order of 2 months.
2 months.
Yes, I guess.
And it was a very intense period of work, is that right?
Yes, it was.
You held hearings in Nairobi, correct?
Yes.
And you also crisscrossed different parts of Kenya. That's right, isn't it?
We went to different parts of Kenya, yes, we did.
For example, you went to the coast, had hearings in Mombasa.
That's right.
You went to Nakuru and Naivasha.
Yes, although not in that order.
And 3 days were spent by the Commission in Eldoret, is that right?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And that was between the 5th and 7th of August 2008, is that right? And Your Honour, that's again page 3 of, and witness, that's page 3 of the report, the third paragraph, which details the various Commission hearings that took place: Nairobi, Naivasha, Nakuru, Eldoret, Kisumu, Barabu, Mombasa, and so on. So you had 3 days of hearings in Eldoret.
Yes.
And because of the challenges of work, and I think you talk about time constraints and lack of time about 14 times in your statement, is it right that work was divided amongst the commissioners and the staff to try to make things as efficient as possible? For example, Melinda Ricks was designated as the point person in doing work on gender-based violence. Is that right?
Yes, she was, and she would have overseen that area.
Yes. And your fellow commissioner, Pascal...
I'm sorry, Your Honour, but there were 2 questions asked, and I believe the witnesses only answered the second part of that. The first one was whether or not work was divided to try and make things as efficient as possible. Perhaps the witness could be given an opportunity.
Yes, witness, please, if you had something more to say.
Well, I mean, the structure of the Commission was, there were divisions of labour, if you like. Obviously, with any organisation, that's true. So, some people were involved in administrative work, and others were involved in investigations, and others were involved from a legal perspective. So,
Yes.
clearly.
I'm grateful. And is it correct also that between you and your other international commissioner, Mr. Pascal Kambali, there was essentially a specialization where you, with your background, focused on state security apparatus, police, acts and omissions by the state, and Pascal Kambali, with his background in human rights, was focusing on, essentially, on non-state actors? Is that how you divvied up the work, so to speak?
Well,
in broad terms.
Well, in broad terms, the commissioners looked at the witnesses and evidence and across the board, frankly. And obviously, from my background, one of the things that I did focus on was acts and omissions of state security agencies and others, but not to the exclusion, I would hope, of looking at other aspects of the post-election violence.
Of course. But there was, from a resource imperative, so to speak, it is correct, is it not, that you were really the point person with a very keen grasp on acts and omissions, possibly against the police, the security apparatus and the state, and Pascal Kambali, with his human rights background, he was allocated and it was decided he would look at the activities of non-state actors. Broadly, that was right.
I wouldn't put it as the distinction as marked as that, frankly.
And time certainly was an issue, wasn't it?
Well, yes, from the outset.
Yes. Now, there had been other commissions in Kenya before the Waki Commission. I'm right, aren't I?
Well, I believe there were as many as 30
yes.
previous commissions of inquiry.
For example, two that you reference in your report is the Kiliku, K-I-L-I-K-U, the Kiliku Commission. You recall that one? From the 1990s?
Yes.
And also the Akiwumi Commission, which is very well known and received the attention of the Commission. Is that right?
Yes.
Spelling.
A-K-I-W-U-M-I. I'm grateful. Akiwumi Commission. And it's at page 498 of the report, but I think there's no dispute between the parties. The Akiwumi Commission sat between the 1st of July 1998 and the 31st of July 1999, submitting its report on the 19th of August 1999. That sounds right, doesn't it?
Oh, look,
you can look at page 498 of your report if you wish.
well, I can, but that would be a matter of public record, surely.
Do you accept it or not? It's in your report. If you don't,
Well,
please take the time to read.
What's the reference again?
498 of the WACI report. Witness, just bear with me a moment. I'll give you the reference. I think it's my mistake completely. Yes, it's 448. I do apologise. 448. In part 12, dealing with impunity. And it states, I think on your copy it's 446. Pagination's different, isn't it? And ERN is 0820. And it says, the Akiwumi Commission was appointed on the 1st of July 1998, and its life was variously extended up to the 31st of July 1999, when it completed its report and submitted it to President Daniel Arap Moi on the 19th of August 1999. So you accept
Yes, that's
that
right.
timeline?
Yes.
So compared to the Akiwumi Commission, you had significantly less time to conduct investigations and analyse facts. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
And looking at the Gazette notice that you went through with the prosecution, of course, the Commission of Inquiry was a non-judicial body, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
In fact, given the task and the time allocated, or the time allocated in reference to the task, in fact, it was known, affectionately or otherwise, by commissioners and others as a baby commission. Am I right? Do you remember that term being used by you and your commissioners and staff?
I remember the term, but it was used by others, not the commissioners initially, I'd have to say.
Did you ever hear your colleagues referring to it as a baby commission?
Not my colleagues, but I did hear the term baby commission. My understanding was from, I don't know where it was from, but it was from outside the commission.
Did you ever hear Melinda Ricks call it baby commission?
Not specifically, no.
Bob Grinstead?
Not that I can recall.
Never used it in conversations with you?
Not that I can recall, no.
And am I right that when the Commission was established and started work, emotions, in many respects, were still raw? They were raw in Kenya.
Well, that would be correct.
For understandable reasons, a lot of emotion, bitterness and anger remained at the time you started your work. Is that right?
Well, I believe that would be the case, particularly in certain areas.
From your assessment as a commissioner, is that your impression?
Well, that's a pretty general statement, to be fair. One of the abiding memories I have of talking to people directly was the sheer resilience, frankly, of some of the people that had been victimised. And it was extraordinary to me to see the resilience and how some of these people conducted themselves, having been through an extraordinary torrid time, personally.
Yes, resilience aside, and of course that's fully accepted, from the inquiries that from the hearings that you sat in on, do you accept that feelings and emotions were still raw at the time the Commission was conducting its hearings, or is that wrong?
Well, I think there'd be certainly an element of that. It was quite recent still after the conclusion of the post-election violence, and there a couple of areas stood out, I'd have to say, as that we went to, where there was some pretty obvious and palpable tension.
And I'm right, am I not, that the WACI Commission was established in part to try to deal with some of these problems of the past and to make sure that a proper inquiry took place so that the causes of violence could be understood and that Kenya could move forward in peace and harmony without such violence hopefully occurring in the future. Is that generally right, one of the motivating factors of the WACI inquiry?
Well, the mandate of the WACI Commission was clearly articulated in the Gazette notice, so part of the mandate, I'd need to read it again, was to make suggestions and recommendations going forward.
Let's do that. Let's go to tab 1 of the file in front of you. The defence file, it's the green one, yes, you've got the right one. Mm-hmm. And the prosecution took you to 2 pages of that. You accept that is the document that agreed upon establishing the Commission of Inquiry on Post-Election Violence. It's that document, isn't it?
Yes, that's the agreement.
Yes. And if you go on page 2 of that agreement, the second from last paragraph, it's Ken D09-0037-0001 at 0002. You'll see that at the outset the Commission had stated that its reports would be presented to the President upon and made public within 14 days of its final submission. Is that right?
Yes, with a copy to the panel.
Yes. And if you go to the next page, you will see the signatories to that agreement. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
And it's correct, isn't it, that in 2 parallel columns you have various signatories that are signing on behalf of the government, stroke PNU, and on the other side, individuals signing and establishing this commission, agreeing to establish this commission on behalf of ODM. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
For example, for the government, you see the Honourable Martha Karua, don't you, at the top?
Yes.
She was the Minister of Justice, correct?
I couldn't be absolutely sure what position she held at that time, to be honest.
Going to the next column, do you see the name Honourable William Ruto?
Yes, I do.
So you see his signature there.
Yes, I do.
And he was part of the Serena Group, wasn't he? Are you aware of that, the Serena Group?
What do you mean by the Serena Group?
Do you know what the Serena Group is?
I couldn't give a definition of what the Serena Group is, no.
Not a definition, but as a commissioner, had you heard of the Serena Group?
Well, I don't recall a group called the Serena Group. No, I don't actually.
We'll move on. If you turn over the page, and Your Honour, I'll ask for that firstly to be exhibited. So Ken D009-0037-0001 until 0003, if that be marked as a defence exhibit.
Prosecution?
Objection, Your Honours.
No objection, Your Honour.
Document is admitted as the next in the Ruto defense exhibit.
Le document KEN
Document KEN D0900370001. Public will have the number EVDT D0900269. Number 219. 219 corrects the interpreter.
I'm grateful. And, sir, if you could move then to tab 2, you will see another document. It's Ken D09-0037-0004, and it is, again, under the auspices of the Kenya National Dialogue on Reconciliation, Independent Review Committee, Terms of Reference. You can see that, can't you?
Yes, I can.
That ultimately became called the Kriegler Commission, am I right?
Yes, that's right.
And as your commission was to focus on the causes of violence, the broad mandate of the Kriegler Commission was to look at issues of the election itself, the modalities and the accuracy of the election itself. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
And if you turn to the 4th page, it has the ERN number, sir, on the bottom right, 0007. Can you see again that once again signatures were appended?
Yes, I can see that.
Do you remember seeing that document in your work as a commissioner?
I believe I may have seen this document in my work as a commissioner. I should say that I have subsequently seen these documents at another forum.
Your Honour, I'd ask once again that an exhibit number be given to those documents starting 0004 until 0007.
Prosecution?
No objection, Your Honours, and I can indicate that similarly have no objections to the documents at tab 3 and 4.
We have no objection to all of them, Your Honour.
One at a time. Let's deal with the one Mr. Ken has referred to, so there is no confusion. So that document is admitted as the next in the Ruto defense exhibit.
Le document
Document KEN D0900370004. Public will have the number EVDT D09000220. Prosecution Exhibit 220.
I'm grateful. And, sir, if you could go to tab 3, the prosecution have accepted, they have no objections to this. But you'll see, and it's Ken D09-0037-0008, and it's entitled Longer Term Issues and Solutions, Constitutional Review. So this is also part of the picture, isn't it? That you had a review on the elections, a review on the causes of violence, and this was a commitment to look at creating a new, solid constitution that would provide a solid legal basis for Kenya moving forward. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And if you turn over the page to 0009, once again you'll see that the signatures were added again separately to this document. You see that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Your Honour, I'd ask that that also be given an exhibit number, please.
Prosecutor, you already indicated you do not object.
Yes, I have no objection to that, Your Honours, but may I just indicate that the court officer referred to the previous exhibit as Prosecution Exhibit 220. It should, of course, be Ruto Defence Exhibit 220.
And, Your Honour, can I just say, while that's been done, I'm told that a smell of burning can be smelt at the back. So just to raise that with the court officer. I'm grateful. I wish it was a sizzling cross-examination, but alas, it's not.
All right. Can you make the correction in the meantime?
Le document
Document KEN D0900370004 will have the number EVDT D09000220 or Defence Exhibit, Ruto Defence Exhibit 22.
Thank you.
I'm grateful. And witness, if you could then go to tab 4, you'll see another piece of the jigsaw for rebuilding Kenya, which starts at KEN D09-0037-0010, and it's a document entitled Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
And this was an agreement to establish, in tandem with the Kriegel Commission and the Waki Commission, the Constitutional Review, also a commission that was dealing with peace and justice and reconciliation. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And if you turn over the page and you go to KEN D09-0037-0012, you will once again see that amongst the other signatures is the name of William Ruto supporting that initiative. Is that right?
That's true, yes.
I'm grateful. Your Honour, once again I'd ask that an exhibit number be given to this document, please.
Prosecutor?
No objection, Your Honour.
No objection, yeah.
Document is admitted as the next in the Ruto Defence exhibits.
Maître Khan, pouvez-vous...
Mr. Khan, could you confirm if this is the document ending in 0010?
0012. So it starts KEN D09 0037-0010 and then continues to 0012. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Document KEN D09-0037-0010 will have the number EVDT D09-00221 or Ruto Defence Exhibit number 221.
I'm grateful. And sir, if you could then go to tab 5, you'll see another document, and it's headed the National Accord and Reconciliation Act 2008. And the preamble starts, there is a crisis in this country. The parties have come together in recognition of this crisis and agree that a political solution is required. Can you see that document?
Yes, I can.
And you're aware, are you not, that this was the foundation of what became the coalition agreement that saw ODM members headed by the Honourable Raila Odinga join the government that was presided over by His Excellency Mwai Kibaki? You're aware of that, are you?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And so collectively, the landscape that you saw upon your arrival saw, of course, a crisis and a recent conflict. But already, at the time of your arrival, there was Kenyan initiatives in way that were quite far-reaching in healing the divide. Is that right?
Well, yes, there were a number of arrangements put in place to, well, initially to stop the violence and to, I can't comment too much on what impact that have had at that stage on Kenyan society.
Yes.
Mr. Khan, what do you want to do with this document? Is it already on the record?
Your Honour, it's not. I'd ask that it be given an exhibit number, please.
Prosecutor?
No objection, Your Honour.
No objection, yeah.
Admitted as the next in the Ruto defense exhibits.
Maître Khan, pourriez-vous nous donner un numéro?
Con, could you give us an ERN number, please?
Ken D09-0037-0013 until 0014. Thank you.
Merci. Le document.
Thank you. Document KEN D09-0037-0013 will have the number EVD T D09-00222 or Ruto Defence Exhibit number 222.
Your Honour, I hesitate to rise. I wonder, is that Exhibit 222 or 223? I'm grateful. Grateful. Now, sir, you have mentioned various internationals, non-Kenyans, that were working to support the Commission. You recall that?
Yes.
For example, Pascal Kambali, Bob Grinstead, Melinda Ricks, and Suzanne Muller. You're aware of that?
Yes.
And are you aware that Suzanne Muller was met and was questioned by the prosecution on the 14th of December 2009?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Are you aware that Mr. Bob Grinstead was met and questioned by the prosecution on the 16th of December 2009? Identified?
No.
They spoke to you about William Ruto, did they not?
I don't have much recollection of those conversations at all, actually.
Okay, I'll move on. I'm grateful. Witness, you've previously verified that there were 3 days of hearings in Eldoret between the 5th and 7th of August 2008. And I'm going to ask you some questions which are based, in fact, upon page 10 of the WACI report. And it's at tab 12, Ken OTP 0001-0384. Check the paginations. Page 3 also. Page 10.
Sí.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Khan, it might do to refer to the ERN number, since there may be some disparity between your hard copy and what we have.
Your Honor, the ERN is 0384. Now, sir, you'll see that the last paragraph, if you wish to refer to it, but the Commission heard witness testimony from 30 witnesses in regard to the Rift Valley province. That's right, is it not?
Yes.
These were the viva voce witnesses that appeared before the Commission, that appeared before you. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, they would have appeared before the Commission.
Yes. Now, you'll also see that your investigators, the Commission investigators, I should say, took signed statements in private from 24 individuals, 17 of whom did not testify before the Commission. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see that.
So it's right, is it?
Mr. Ken, can you hold that question? Apparently the statics on lack thereof generated by the smell information interrupted the recording of a certain defense exhibit, so we need to do that now.
I'm most grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document KEN D0900370008 will be given the EVD number TD09000223 or Ruto Defense Exhibit number 223.
Thank you. Mr. Ken, sorry about the interruption.
No, I'm most grateful. Witness, I was saying that, as your report notes, as the WACI report notes, that the Commission investigators took statements from 24 individuals, 17 of whom did not testify before the Commission. So you agree with me that 7 witnesses interviewed by Commission investigators did testify before the Commission, viva voce?
Yes, that would appear to be true.
So 7 out of the 30 individuals spoken to with regard to the North Rift, only 7 of those were spoken to by Commission investigators. That's right, isn't it?
Will you say that again?
I said out of the 30 witnesses that gave evidence before the WACI Commission, only 7 of those were spoken to, statements were taken by Commission investigators. 7 out of the 30 were WACI Commission witnesses, so to speak.
Oh, I see, yes.
That's right.
The numbers would certainly say that, that's right.
Yes, thank you. And so for the bulk of the witnesses, these 23 witnesses, they came before the Commission by various other means. Is that right?
Yes.
For example, lawyers with standing.
Yes.
They would bring witnesses.
Yes, they would.
And these witnesses, these lawyers with standing who brought their witnesses, I'm right, am I not, that those witnesses had not prepared statements. They came before the Commission, were asked questions, normally led through their evidence by their lawyer, and then any questions that existed would be put. Is that right?
That's not always the case. I remember that some, if not all, did have statements.
But casting your mind back to the North Rift region and these 30 witnesses, did most of the witnesses arrive before you with statements or without statements?
Well, I don't know about most witnesses, but some witnesses did and some didn't. for example, the PCs or police officers or what have you may not have tendered a statement and others did.
And just to be clear, out of the 30 witnesses, so I'm not misleading anybody, out of the 30 witnesses that were heard by the WACI Commission in relation to the North Rift Valley, 25 of those were heard in Eldoret and the other 5 were heard in Nairobi. Is that right? It's on the face of the report.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I'm grateful. And even in circumstances, sir, when lawyers with standing came before the Commission and presented a witness, and there was, in any case, a statement, they were circulated normally for the first time at the Commission hearing. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, that was right.
And so the questioning of those witnesses was limited either to direct responses and direct questioning in the face of viva voce evidence, but there wasn't time to do investigations to test the assertions that the witness was making whilst the witness was before you. Is that right?
Well, with those particular witnesses, you're right, they were not interviewed by our investigators before appearing before us.
The first time you had the opportunity, sir, of seeing those witnesses and hearing those witnesses was when they appeared before you at the Commission. Is that right?
Yes.
And 25 witnesses over 3 days in Eldoret, again, simple mathematics, approximately you had 8 witnesses a day. Is that right?
I'm not sure if the split was as even as that, but...
well, I can be precise. On the 7th of August, you heard 12 witnesses.
Do you have a difficulty referring this witness to the source of the proposition? Yes, it's been a while and we don't expect him to have photographic
of course,
or video memory of everything that happened at the time.
Your Honour, it's on the witness list that's been provided by the prosecution, which is at tab 9, I'm grateful. And
who's tab 9? Yours?
Prosecution's tab 9, I'm grateful. Prosecution's tab 9. Prosecution Exhibit 127. Your Honour and Mr. Witness, sir, it starts at, it's very small unfortunately, but it's 0755 on the bottom. Ken OTP 0041-0755. Maybe it's easier, it's at 65A it starts. Hmm?
0755, you say? You say we're looking at 0755?
0755 is the start of the hearings that took place on the 5th of August 2008, and the report makes it clear that the hearings continued up to and including the 7th of August 2008. So there were 3 days of hearing. But witness, the point I'm trying to get across is sometimes, well, the average, again, just generally, of course there are always exceptions, But the average time a witness spent with you was normally about 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes an hour and a bit. Is that right, broadly speaking?
Well, it varied quite a bit. I mean, what we tried to do was hear a number of representative witnesses, and in some cases, in fact, many days of our hearings, we didn't stick to a court approach of starting at 10 and finishing at 4. We would start early sometimes and finish as late as 11 p.m. So, you'd have to split that time up among the witnesses, and they're not equally apportioned, I wouldn't think.
Well, I can appreciate that. That's very fair.
Mr. Ken, just to reassure everyone, the report back about the smell and the security department investigated it. It has nothing to do with the building. There's some smell out in the motorway that found itself into the courtroom somehow.
I'm grateful. I think everyone looks forward to lunch.
Everybody.
Smells. Your Honour, perhaps we can move on. Witness, casting your mind to the hearings, the 3 days hearings in Eldoret, would you agree with me broadly? Sometimes you spent even less, in fact. But generally you'd spend about an hour or so with witnesses in Eldoret in those 3 days.
Well, as I've said before, I'm not sure of some witnesses would take longer than others, frankly, depending on the length of their evidence. The other thing to remember is that often evidence in cameras actually goes through a little quicker. The formalities are a little tighter and work more quickly.
Witness, let me try to narrow it down a little bit. You didn't spend, for example, half a day, let's talk about half a day, with any witness in Eldoret, did you?
No, I would think not. I don't know whether it was there or not, but one witness, we concluded one day and started the next. I'm not sure whether that was Eldoret or not. But generally speaking, you were quite correct, and we wouldn't spend half a day with a witness.
Yes, I'm grateful. And
perhaps a very efficient system, I may say.
Your Honour, I hope the bench doesn't get ideas. Now, witness, you've spoken in your evidence in chief regarding your own appointment and the Honourable Pascal Kambali, and of course about Justice, His Excellency Justice Waki. But in relation to the Secretary to the Inquiry and the Counsel assisting David Manjaja and George Kagoro, in fact, they were not appointed by way of mutual consultation, but directly by the Minister of Justice, Martha Karua. That's right, isn't it? Approved by the President, of course, but appointed and selected by Martha Karua, the Minister of Justice.
I have no knowledge about how they were selected. I only know that their names appeared in the Gazette reference on their appointment. No.
Now, witness, you said, sir, yesterday that Suzanne Muller came to assist the Commission. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And she was effectively an academic. Is that a fair assessment?
That would be my assessment, yes.
And in fact, she arrived in Kenya. Well, do you know that she got the job by ringing the Secretary of SIPEV and expressing her interest in assisting the Commission's work? And George Kagoro accepted that offer, and that's how she got the job.
No, that's not so. I believe that she did approach the Commission. Others did too, I'd have to say. A number of others from all over the world to assist the Commission. Her name, from memory, there might have been others too, put up to the Commissioners. We had a discussion about it, and she was appointed there. That was how that was handled, not She wasn't appointed by Mr. Kagoro in the absence of discussion with us.
But she instigated the contact. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying she instigated the contact with the Secretary of the Commission and said, I'm very interested in assisting the work of the Commission. That's right, isn't it?
Oh,
to the
yes.
best of your knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge, but I mean, in context, dozens and dozens of people contacted the Commission to be helpful.
Is the answer to my question yes?
Yes.
I'm grateful. And she arrived in August 2008, correct?
I can't guarantee exactly how she arrived without looking at some documentation, I guess.
And, Your Honour, again, for the reference of the prosecution, Ken OTP 0087-0877. At the time she arrived, most of the field work had been completed. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Most of it would have been.
And Your Honour, for the prosecution, it's the statement of Ms. Suzanne Muller at 0878. It's right, is it not, that Ms. Muller was in fact given the responsibility, sorry, 0877, the bottom paragraph over to page 2, 0878. Ms. Muller remained in Kenya for 2 months, is that right?
I believe she did, yes.
And she was involved in drafting or redrafting 5 chapters of the final CIPEV report, and these chapters were the introduction, a redraft, the background chapter, the chapter on the North Rift section in the Rift Valley chapter, chapter 3, the sexual violence chapter, chapter 6 redraft, and the mass media chapter, chapter 8. The CIPEV report was partly written in Mombasa and then completed in Nairobi. That's right, isn't it?
Well, I believe it's an overstatement of her involvement with our Commission.
You didn't draft the Rift Valley section yourself, did you, sir?
I didn't write the first draft, but I certainly read all of the drafts.
And Miss Muller, she never went to the North Rift Valley, did she?
No.
She never attended the Commission hearings in the North Rift Valley?
No.
And of course she wasn't a lawyer, was she?
I don't expect so. I don't believe she was, no.
Did she ever tell you? But do you agree with the proposition, and let me know if it's right or wrong, that she wrote the chapter, the North Rift section in the Rift Valley chapter. The chapter and others were based on witness statements, testimonies, and other official or unofficial sources and submissions. Do you agree with that or not?
There's multiple questions. Can you bring it up?
I can indeed. Do you agree she wrote the chapter 3 dealing with the North Rift Valley?
No, that's not my recollection at all.
Okay, I'll move on. Are you aware, in fact, while I'm on to the issue of Suzanne Muller, that it was her, she was an expert on Kenya, was she? She knew quite a bit about Kenya as an academic, is that right or not?
Yes, I believe so.
Mr. Khan, if you can look at the clock on the wall and how are things going about whether
yes,
you can complete, both of you, by 3:50 today? If not, then...
Your Honour, if the bench is minded to shorten the lunch break, we would finish, I hope, we'll finish by 4 o'clock. Not I hope, I think we'll finish by 4 o'clock. Just bear with me one moment. I think, it's not a Monday. Your Honour, I think perhaps it's more prudent, instead of trying to squeeze things in and then breaching a promise, if the court is so minded, we could adjourn and come back on Monday. I would very much hope that we'd be finished by lunch on Monday at the latest. But we'll be finished with the witness, just to reassure that we'll finish with the witness hopefully on Monday.
Witness, so I mean, this concerns you as well. We want to make it as easy as possible for everyone. And if the defense will not be completing today, we might as well come back on Monday. That's the concern. Also, in light of your own condition, squeezing the lunch break down from 1.5 hours to 1 hour and then coming back and taking the risk of not finishing anyway might be a wasted exercise.
Thank you, Your Honour. From a personal position, it would have been better to conclude today if that was possible, obviously.
Yes, that's of course what we thought that. Yeah. Yes, that's also what we think, but it seems that we might as well adjourn at 1 o'clock and come back on Monday.
Your Honours, if it's any assistance, I can indicate that at this stage the prosecution has no re-examination.
Your Honour, I'm alive to the witness, and of course we want him to go back, and we appreciate he's come here when perhaps it's been difficult for him. Your Honour, if the court could indulge us and shorten the lunch break, we'll finish by 4 o'clock.
So we're back to the discussion. So normally we would have taken 1.5 hour lunch break, but shortening it means shortening it down to only 1 hour. I hope that doesn't cause you a lot of stress.
No, Your Honour, we can be prepared for that. Thank you.
All right, we will shorten the lunch break and return at 2 o'clock instead of the usual 2:30. Right, maybe we should take that break now. The court will adjourn and we'll come back at 2.
All rise. We will.